Mic to the Statistician General of the Federation, Dr. Simon.
Tuesday, we felt that it was important that we officially release the Q4 gross domestic product report, the presence of the media, because of the peculiar importance of it. Indeed, it's a key macroeconomic indicator that clearly shows us the importance of the performance of the nation's economy. And that is why we decided to recall you back that you provide the usual support in ensuring that Nigerians are properly informed about the performance of the economy. I think I should rather be talking without a microphone. All right. So you will recall that 2 days ago, I addressed the press on the January 2022 Consumer Price Index, measuring an inflation rate of 15.6% on a year-on-year basis. Today's press briefing will be focusing on the Q4 GDP of 2021, which will give us a clear picture of the performance of the nation's economy during the period under review. And this is in line with global practice as enshrined in the Code of Practice of the Statistical Profession in Nigeria. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press, as you may be aware, the Nigerian economy exited the COVID-19 induced recession during the quarter that we experienced in the Q2 and 3 of 2020, and that was exited during Q4 of the same year, recording a figure of 0.11%. And indeed, since then, as a nation, we have been maintaining a positive trajectory in the growth rate of the gross domestic product up to a period of 4 quarters, which gives us a clear and a steady stability of the nation's economy. And as you will recall, Q1, as 4 of 2020, as I mentioned earlier, we had a figure of 0.11%. In Q1 of 2021, we had a figure of 0.51%. So the growth continued up to Q2 of the 2021, when we recorded a tremendous growth of 5.01%. Again, that was maintained even in Q3 of 2021, when the nation's economy grew by 4.03%. Gentlemen of the press, it is pertinent to know that the economy has maintained this positive trajectory up to the 4th quarter of 2021, recording a GDP growth rate of 3.98%. This figure to an average Nigeria may be seen to be looking lower than the 4.0% as recorded during the Q3 of 2021. Perhaps analytically, it's important to note that certainly by the time you bring in the base effect of the preceding period, you discover that the 3.98% that is being recorded today certainly is relatively higher than the 4.03% as recorded during the Q3 of 2021. And this is because you recall that the corresponding period of quarter 4 of 2021, which was quarter 4 of 2022, had a growth of 0.11%, while the corresponding period of quarter 3 of 2021, which is quarter 3 of 2022, 2020 had a corresponding growth figure of negative 3.62%. And so if you look at the disparity, you discover that because of the base effect or the seasonal effect, certainly the 3.98% that is being recorded today is far greater than the 4.03%. However, we are not unconscious of the fact that an average Nigerian, or even the media, in reporting will say GDP drops from 4.03% to 3.98%. Is that not correct? Because I am pretty sure that is what the media is going to report. But for us who are analysts or technocrats on the field, certainly it is not a drop, but rather we consider it as an increase because it has the influence of the base effect. And so I must state here that the improvement being seen in the output growth in the last 5 quarters depicts a steady progress made in stemming the COVID-19 pandemic and the associated negative impact on the livelihood, the well-being, and the economy generally. Globally, many countries have witnessed an improvement in economic performances compared to 2022, when COVID-19 was so endemic. And thus, economic recovery is a gradual process that requires consistent collective efforts to improve economic activities across the institutional sectors, such as the household, the non-profit institutions serving households, the financial corporations, the non-financial corporations, and the government. However, in Nigeria, the prospects of consolidating the recovery is glaring considering the improved economic performances over these periods of time. It is therefore important to also mention that the annual GDP growth rate of 2021 currently stands at 3.40%, and that is by taking the average of the 4 quarters starting from quarter 1 to quarter 4. And so by the time you divide that by 4, that gives you 3.40%, representing the growth rate for the year 2021. In nominal terms, aggregate GDP stood at 49.28 trillion naira during the 4th quarter of 2021. And this performance is higher when compared to the 4th quarter of 2020, which recorded 43.56% trillion naira, indicating a year-on-year nominal growth rate of 13.11%. Nominal gross domestic product in the preceding quarter of 2021 stood at 49.11 trillion naira. Annual nominal value in 2021 was 173.53 trillion, as against the 152.32 trillion recorded in 2020, thereby showing a growth rate of 13.92% during the period under review. In terms of real GDP, which shows volume of economic activities, the 4th quarter 2021 recorded 20.33 trillion naira, which was higher by 778.91 billion than the 19.55 trillion recorded during the 4th quarter of 2020. And this clearly shows that output growth of 3.98% was recorded during the fourth quarter of the year 2021. Moreover, output of fourth quarter of 2021 was higher by 1.79 trillion naira as compared to the third quarter of 2021, when aggregate real GDP was 18.54 trillion naira. Annual real value of 2021 stood at 72.39 trillion naira as compared to 70.01 trillion naira recorded in 2020. In the case of the oil sector, and indeed in terms of the oil performance, an average daily oil production of 1.50 million barrels per day was recorded during the fourth quarter of 2021. This shows a lower volume compared to the 1.56 million barrels per day as recorded during the fourth quarter of 2020, which shows a difference of 0.06 million barrels per day. The fourth quarter 2021 daily oil consumption also shows lower volume compared to the third quarter of 2020 production volume of 1.57 million barrels per day. These trends account for oil growth rate of negative 8.06% in real times recorded during the fourth quarter of 2021 and an annual growth rate of negative 8.30% during the year 2021. Additionally, during the fourth quarter of 2021, oil contributed 5.19% to gross domestic product from the figure that was recorded during the fourth quarter of 2020, which was 5.87%. On an annual basis, oil contributed 7.24% compared to what it contributed during the year 2020, which was 8.16%. In the case of the non-oil sector, which, as we all know, excludes crude petroleum and natural gas activity, the sector recorded growth rate of 4.73% during the fourth quarter of 2021 in real terms, and an improvement from 1.69% as reported during the fourth quarter of 2020. However, the growth rate of non-oil sector during quarter 3 of 2020 performed better at 5.44%. The annual growth rate of 4.44% was recorded in 2021 as against the negative 1.25% recorded in 2020. The non-oil accounted for 94.81%, an increase from the 94.13% recorded in the fourth quarter of 2020, while annual contribution increased from 91.84% during the year 2020 to 92.76% in 2021. In the case of the fastest growing activities during the fourth quarter of 2021, it is interesting to note that transportation and storage sector, mining and quarrying, financial and insurance sector, water supply, sewage and waste management, and remediation sector have shown strong growth during the quarter under review. Thus, the fastest growing activities in real times during the fourth quarter of 2021 GDP estimates were: 1, air transport with a figure of 63.05%, coal mining with a figure of 62.91%, metal ores with a figure of 42.96%, quarrying and other minerals with a figure of 42.92%, supply, rail transport and pipeline with a figure of 37.74%, road transport with a figure of 30.39%, water supply, sewage, waste management, and remediation with a figure of 28.984%, and indeed financial institutions with a figure of 21.19%. On the other hand, the slowest growing activities include oil refining with a negative figure of 43.94%, crude petroleum and natural gas with a negative figure of 8.06%, wood and wood products minus 4.82%, pulp, paper and paper products negative 3.33%, and textile, apparel and footwear with a figure of negative 2.37%. Also, while air, rail, road transport witnessed high demand during the fourth quarter of 2021 due to the festive season and indeed easing of travel restrictions, the growth of financial institutions was driven principally by the volume of deposits and interest in deposits received. In addition, there was an improvement in water supply, sewage, waste management, and remediation during the quarter under review. On the other hand, the poor performance of oil was due to operational challenges and indeed insecurity coming from pipeline vandalism. On the broad sectoral performance, agriculture grew by 3.58% during the quarter under review, that's quarter 4 of 2021. Real times higher than fourth quarter of 2020, which recorded a figure of 3.42%. Industry grew by negative 0.05%, which is an improvement over the fourth quarter 2020 figure of negative 7.30%. And services accounted for 5.58% growth, which is also an improvement from 1.31% recorded during the fourth quarter of 2020. On annual basis, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the growth of industry and services improved from negative 5.85% and negative 2.22% in 2020 to negative 0.47% and 5.61% respectively in the year 2021. While the growth of agricultural sector declined slightly from 2.17% in 2020 to 2.13% in 2021. Agriculture, industry, and services contributed 26.84%, 18.05%, and 55.11% respectively to the GDP during the fourth quarter of 2021. In contrast, agriculture, industries, and services contributed 26.95%, 18.77%, and 54.28% respectively in quarter 4 of 2020. This shows higher contribution of services in the fourth quarter of 2021 compared to what was recorded during the corresponding period of 2020, and as well as on annual basis in 2021. In conclusion, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me once again say a word of appreciation to our partners in the business of circle production, in the Nigerian circle system, and indeed the National Bureau of Statistics for all their unalloyed support to the National Bureau of Statistics in disseminating SACO information, particularly for important macroeconomic indicators that goes a long way in giving us a clearer picture of the structure and the dynamics in the nation's economy. So I want to thank you as a media for the important role that you have continued to play in informing the general public, and as well as your continued support in disseminating the information as produced by the National Bureau of Statistics. Indeed, there's no doubt that the support provided has helped tremendously to improve SACO delivery and usage in Nigeria, because as much as people use statistics, their continued usage helps to keep us in the business of producing statistics on a daily basis, because we're happy that somebody somewhere is happy using the products that are emanating from the system here. So in the same vein, I look forward to credible reporting on the Q4 GDP of 2021, which the entire nation have been looking up to see what was the performance of the economy during the year 2021. On this note, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the management of the National Bureau of Statistics, and indeed the Nigerian SACO system, I wish to declare here that based on the authority bestowed on me by the Statistics Act of 2007, that the nation's economy grew by 3.98% during the fourth quarter of 2021, and that the economy recorded an annual growth rate of 3.40% during the year 2021. And as usual, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the NBS remains open for us to provide more information and further clarification on some of the numbers that are being released. And with this declaration, the fourth quarter GDP and the annual figure of 2021 are simultaneously released on all available platforms for the data dissemination within the National Bureau of Statistics and indeed the SACO system in Nigeria. At this point, I want to thank you immensely for your continued support and indeed your attention at this press briefing. Thank you, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.